Okay, we're holding the Hilchas Melicha Siman Ayin. We've gone through Siman Samach Tes, which is really the Ikar Siman Hilchas Melicha, going through the various procedures of how to make meat kosher. In other words, you Baruch Hashem, are happy that the cow came out kosher without any treifas. You still have to salt it if you intend to cook it. If you intend to barbecue it, of course, we said towards the end of Siman Samach Tes, b'mokav she'ena melech matzui, there's no salt. Or intentionally, even you do have salt but you want to barbecue it, then that's fine, as long as you're able to drain the blood away. It's important for people to realize this idea of barbecuing in the proper way when they're buying liver. As we will eventually see, shopping around now for Pesach, people may buy all kinds of meats. I've seen those livers, again, for some reason, not all of them are kosher. They say kosher, but they don't tell you how to do it. So it's important to teach people how to properly do kosher the meat, the liver, as opposed to chicken and meat, which is already done for us. In learning about Hilchas, about the halachas of Melicha, we went through the various svaras as to why we do hadacha, why we do shriya, why we do hadacha rishona and hadacha achroina, whether it's the salt that has absorbed blood that has to be removed after the Melicha is done, whether it's to soften the meat, to allow the salt to work. In other words, in dealing with hadacha rishona or hadacha kamaisa, in order to properly get the blood out, it's important that it be done right. The timing, the amount of time the salt is sitting there, how much of the meat is covered, and so forth. And we're by now also familiar with the koach, with the strength of Melicha itself as to what it could do. In Basar b'chalav, things that are close to each other, and one or the two of them are salty, one of them or the two of them are fatty, one of them is asr, one is heter. So we're going to go on right now to a different, not a completely different area in Melicha, but elaborate a little bit more on potential problems that can arise as a result of Melicha. Melicha is not like Bishul, it's not like even like Kavush, but it's still Meliach Kiroteach. We said it does have some power. However, there were various svaras. We went through various, there's not only one. We wish things were so simple and easy, but sometimes you have 3-4 opinions as to why something is mutter or asr. And how does salt work? Does the salt actually, does it have the ability to draw out the blood, plus to reabsorb it in? It works both ways, or it only works one way? We know salt does the job, in one direction at least, in drawing it out. But there's always the potential that the salt can also reintroduce the blood or anything that is within the proximity back into the meat, because it could have that koach too, especially if it's sitting in a pot that has no holes, has no place for the tzir and the mohel to drain, and according to some, there's still some blood left over. Remember that towards the end of Siman Samach Tes. Even though you think all the blood came out, there's still, according to some opinion, some blood that you have to contend with. You don't want it to accumulate. Even though, for the most part, we know that what comes out later is called mohel. In your packaging, the red liquid is not something that we need to concern about so much, but we wash it off anyway. So in Siman Ayin, the first halacha, or I should say actually the first half of the halacha aleph, deals with salting many pieces of meat together. The second half is a very interesting halacha that deals with why can't you and why shouldn't you salt chicken or meat with fish together. In other words, don't do that. So, in learning the first portion of the Seif, we need to go to the Gemara. The Gemara, it says the Makor, the source of this halacha is in the Gemara in Chulin, Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis, Kuf Yud Gimel, where the Gemara discusses meat that's been salted. Could it be salted? Could many pieces be salted together? And I'm just going to say the maskana. The maskana of the Gemara says there shouldn't be any problem. What's the havamina? The havamina is if you're having pieces of meat being salted one on top of the other, perhaps that same salt that is drawing out the blood from the top piece, that blood is going to go into the bottom piece. So the Gemara says, well, why not say the blood that's coming out from one side is going into the other side of the same piece of meat? In other words, so that's what the Gemara says, you know what? Don't worry about it. If you're salting many pieces of meat together at the same time, pretty much you start at the same time, it's okay. And we need to understand why. Why is it okay? After all, we are concerned with salt being an agent that can take blood and put it into the meat, especially if it's dam ba'in. We saw that in dam ba'in as one of the problems. The dam ba'in meaning the real blood, not dam plita that's coming out of the meat, but dam from the outside that's sitting on top of the meat. There was no hadacha. You don't want it to come back. You don't want it to get in, and once it gets in, it may not be able to come out so easily. Dam ba'in does not just come out like regular dam that's internal blood. Somehow, there does appear to be differences in the chemical makeup, or in the way it works. That salt does not have that same koach to draw out dam ba'in as it does dam plita, the dam that's naturally, internally sitting in the pieces. It's possibly a different kind of consistency. It's just, that's the way the nature works. So we do have a little bit of a concern that perhaps, at least in theory, maybe we should be, separating the pieces of meat, doing one piece at a time, not lumping them together so the dam lands on the bottom one. Perhaps this should be something to worry about. But the Gemara says no. So let's read the Mechaber and then we'll go through the explanations of the spores that are brought down in Toises there as to why this is so. So Molchin, in Sif Aleph, he says, Molchin har bechatichot zu al gavzu. You can take many chickens, many pieces of meat, and just put them on top of the other, salt it all around, let it drip all over the place. Now, of course, the platform is in a slant. Of course, the blood is going to drip away. That's not the issue. The issue is that there's just a lot of meat on one on top of the other, and you can do that. Why? Even though it could be that the bottom one will finish exuding, maybe that's a better word than emitting, or releasing its blood before the top one ever finishes. It's a big piece of top one. It has a lot of blood. We're not going to say, you know what, the bottom is done. Now, all the blood that is absorbing is going to be absorbed. And the reason for that, the Mechaber says, happens to be one of the reasons that Toises brings. And I'll go back to that in a moment. The Mechaber brings that one reason, even though it's true you don't see any blood coming out of the bottom piece, it doesn't mean it's done exuding, it's done releasing juices. There's still something coming out called sir. And that sir, even though it's not blood, is something, it's coming out. And while it is coming out, as long as something is coming out, even though it's not blood, it will not absorb any blood that's falling on it. Well, what about the gumois? There may be some niches, there may be some cavities is the right word, around where you may have an accumulation of tzir, pockets. Thank you. Those are better. It's not completely draining. You have a little bit of an accumulation of tzir in the gumot, in the pockets or cavities around. You have a lot of pieces of meat. Mutar. All this is okay. When did I say this? When is okay? B'moleach basar in basar. As long as it's meat with meat, basar shor in basar gdayim utlaim, even if it's meat with lamb or goat meat, even with chicken. You know why? Even though they're different, she'i efshar lahem ligmor kol plitat tziran, ad shigmor basar shor liflot et damo. It's not, don't think that they're going to be completely done with releasing all the tzir they have in them. Even though you have basar shor, you have a bull, you have a big piece of meat of bull meat on top, they're always going to have something to release. And while they're releasing, whatever it is that's here, that's not going to be a problem. All right. So far, what do we see? We see that the Mechaber just gave a brief explanation that as long as there's plitas tzir, we have no problem. In other words, what that tells us is that there would not be plitat tzir, or if you can point to a certain time frame when it ceases to come out, then there may be a problem. In other words, if you're saying the reason why it's okay is plitas tzir, if there is a time when plitas tzir is no longer there, and there is such a time, either 12 or 24 hours, which we will be learning later on in the Siman, then potentially you could have a problem if at that point you have this piece of meat being salted on top of this meat that no longer has this. Okay, but if you started more or less at the same time, then we don't have to worry about it. That's what he's saying. But as we said, this is only one opinion in the Tosfos. Aide de Toret liflot tzir atzman, Tosfos says, this is one opinion. Tosfos brings various. We're only going to mention two. One of them is Aide de Toret, which we're familiar with. We've seen that while something is busy releasing its seer or blood, it does not bolea, it does not absorb. So, even though the blood is gone, the seer coming out is still helpful. And that is the reason why you can do it. That's the svara that the Tur brings down and the Shuchan Aruch brings down. So, according to this opinion, if the tzir is gone, it could become asur. What's the second reason? Second explanation given in Tosfos b'shem Yesh Meforshim is that, it's true. The dam coming down from the top pieces does get absorbed in the bottom pieces. It does. It's a fact. It goes in. But not to worry. Why? Because that salt on the bottom pieces will get that dam out as well. It's there. It's busy drawing out blood from the bottom pieces. It will draw out the blood that fell on top of it too. We were familiar with that concept. It's boleya. Yes, it went in, but it will come out because the salt is busy doing its job anyway. So it can also take out the blood that has been introduced into this piece of meat.
Didn't we use that power?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. We have, of course, issues with salt after a number of hours, of course. Those are other questions. But here, what we're understanding from Sif Aleph is things are being done pretty much at the same time. You're right. If your scenario is one of those situations where the melech has already done its job, then that complicates matters. Then we have to go back to Siman Samach Tes, where we have those kind of situations where did the salt lose its koach? Does it still have some koach? Yeah, and the various poskim that talk about that. Yeah. So here, nobody says that it's done later on. Otherwise, you're right, we would have that to consider too. But while it's working, everybody's pretty much in agreement. That's the maskana of the Gemara. There's no machloket on that. The question is why. So we have various opinions. Two of them are the ones that we need to concern ourselves, because one is the mechaber, one perhaps is the remote, perhaps. That either it's always busy emitting something, it won't absorb any blood coming down on it, or it does absorb, but so what? The salt is working on the bottom pieces, and while it's working to take out the blood, it's going to take out anything that came in from another piece of meat. Not dam ba'in, but dam plita, yes.
And it doesn't make a difference if the blood is dangerous compared to a chicken?
Exactly. That's the chiddush here. Yeah. That's what's interesting here. In other words, the salt, as long as everything is salted, or as long as you have, according to the first shita, as long as you have seer coming out, something coming out, some juices coming out, it will not absorb. That's very good to know this. This is an important halacha. But remember, there's a nafkamina between the two. There will be a difference between how you hold, which opinion or which explanation you suggest is why this is mutter. Is it because it's aide de torid, as it's busy emitting, it doesn't absorb, or it does absorb, but it comes back out again through the salting that is happening. Anything coming in, comes out. This will make a difference, obviously, what the reason is. The Taz wants to say over here that the Ramah holds like the second reason. Why? Because if you look at the Ramah later on, there's a situation, a scenario where the piece of meat fell into tzir. The Ramah says just go ahead and resalt it to take out the tzir. In other words, we're talking about a piece of meat that was already finished salting, fell into tzir. There's a takana, you can fix it. Don't worry about the tzir. Just go ahead and resalt it and the tzir will come out. So from that, the Taz wants to say, hey, you see, the Ramah probably, because here from this Ramah here we don't see anything. He doesn't really say too much. So the Taz wants to say from another sif later on, from that scenario, it appears that the Ramah wants to say that since you can resalt it, and that resalting will take out the tzir that was absorbed. Oh, the tzir is absorbed. Nevertheless, the salt can take it out. I don't have a problem. You see? Yeah, but that's not so necessarily. The Shach says, no. It doesn't mean that Ramah holds like that. It could be that Ramah also holds like the Mechaber. The main reason why we're matter meat is because I did the Torid the Miflet Lobola. As long as it's being poilet something, it's not going to absorb. Don't worry, any blood that comes, you throw at it, that's internal blood, will not affect it, as opposed to Damba'in, the different kind of blood. What the Ramah over there is talking about is something else. The Shach says that scenario is a little bit different because it's sitting in seer. It's like a little bit of a kavush. That's different. That's worse than blood just, running through it, running down on it, coming down from it on top. To actually sit in seer, a piece of basar or chicken fell into seer, and it was already salted. And then, now what? Well, that's a little bit different. So you can't. So the Shach says on the Taz, don't think that the Ramah holds of the other reason that necessarily that blood goes in, but then you can take it out. No, it could be he holds here the main reason why we allow it is because of the Svara I did the Torah. Okay, so what would be the difference between the two opinions? What could be one difference? One important difference would be like this: the poskim write. Imagine if you hold like the second opinion, the blood is absorbed, but the salt takes it out. Then you got to make sure that the bottom one is continuing to, you have to leave the salt so long until all the plita from the top is done. You have to make sure, right, that the bottom pieces, will take out everything. So you have to make sure that they take out everything that's come down from it on top.
That's not going to happen if the tops.
Yeah, well, we'll see something about that too. But in other words, what does that mean? In other words, let's say you have, several pieces, one on top of the other, right? And we said that the second explanation holds that the dam is going in, but it's coming out through the Melicha, down below. As long as the top ones are emitting, right? You would have to wait. So let's see again. How would that work? You would have to wait until they're done. Let me see if I understood that myself one more time.
So does that mean you have it?
Yeah, let's see here. According to, this is the way I think I understood it. He said if you hold like the second explanation, that the dam is actually being absorbed, but it's coming out to the Melicha, you have to continue. In other words, the Melicha of the bottom pieces has to continue until the end of the plita. Basically, it's a question of a little bit of timing, I guess. Once the plita, as long as there's plita coming down from the top, as long as everything is left there at the same time, obviously, you may remove certain pieces, but the ones at the bottom, since they've already absorbed, from the top, you have to give them a chance to extract what they've absorbed.
So you're going to have to let that.
Yeah. So you want to make.
No.
No.
The quality is going to.
No. It's really. I don't think it doesn't really say how much, but imagine you have two pieces. Let's say two pieces. The top one is still emitting, and let me take the bottom one away and wash it off. Give it a chance now to extract what it absorbed from above. If the one above is already finished giving out, but this one is already ready to be taken too. As long as that one is coming out, you don't want to grab the bottom one yet, because you want to give it a chance. That's the way I understood it. You want to give the one a chance in the bottom to extract what it just absorbed. If it's not done yet, and you take it too early, too soon, you may not have a chance to take out what was absorbed from the top one. So it may not be a big difference in time, but that's one of the differences that the poise can bring down, that if you hold like that, it's being absorbed, but it's coming out, we'll give it a chance to come out. Right? That's the way I understand it, So the Taz brings down that if the bottom, any piece actually already gave out all its seer, either after 12 or 24 hours, as we will see later on, you would not be able to be materet, according to this opinion, of course. If it's reabsorbed, that's going to be a problem. The Nekudas HaKesef, however, in this Taz says not necessarily. This is very interesting. The Nekudas HaKesef says that even though dam and seer may be gone, for the most part, the holes are still open, there's still something coming out, and we don't say that it will be absorbed. Don't necessarily say that it will be absorbed even after the dam and seer have come out, because it's still, we talked about pores being sealed. Something is still coming out. It may not be so much, and as long as something is coming out, you don't have to worry about it. So it could be that even according to the second opinion, something would still be coming out. In other words, whatever came out, and you say, oh, nothing else is coming out. Now what? No, still something is coming out possibly. All right. Anyway, some might tell you just salt pieces separately. But no, we hold the halacha is you don't have to worry about it. And so now we're going to see, however, depending on the shape. The Ramah is going to talk about the shape and the size and the piece of meat. But in general, there's no concern. Before we see the Ramah, the Mechaber added that if there was some seer gathered in some of the cavities or pockets, it's mutter. What's the reason for that? Also, because I did the Torid. So in other words, even though you actually have seer, the omed, baguma, it's not a problem. For the same reason, because I did the Torid takes care of even the seer that is actually standing in the pockets and the cavities. Okay, that's according to the first opinion in Tosfos, which the Mechaber espouses. I did the Torah, but what about, how would the tzir that has gathered in the cavities help the second opinion that holds it's going in? But it comes out because of the Melicha that we apply. Apparently, you would have to say the same thing. That even though it's reabsorbed, it still comes out because the melach takes it out. In other words, it's absorbed into the meat, but it comes out too. Otherwise, there would be a different halacha over here for gumais. There doesn't appear to be a different halacha on gumais, or different opinions about gumais. It's the same thing. Even though there's gumais, there's cavity, the blood that was absorbed, according to the second opinion, will come out with the salting. Tosfos, however, adds something very important. He says, anyway, memela, he says, we are of the opinion that what is remaining in the gumas, in the cavities, after all that blood that has come out, is tzir anyway, it's not blood. That makes a big difference, because I saw one of the poskim say that that even a piece of meat, therefore, that you already have more than 12 or 24 hours pass by and doesn't have anything of its own coming out, if it were to fall in that accumulated liquid in the cavities or be around, be sitting there, as long as it's not in a keli sheinu menukur that we said before, it wouldn't be a problem. We would be mekel, we would be lenient, because we would consider it seer and not dam. All right, as long as we hold that seer is not dam at all, then it's okay. There is an opinion that holds that seer still has some dam. So if it's sitting in a non-perforated keli, it's more of a problem. But if everything is okay, just that there's cavities and pockets of this accumulated liquid, we consider that seer, he says. And because that's how we hold, we would be lenient with that. Even after the 12 or 24, even though there's nothing else coming out. Alright, let's see the Ramah. Ramah says that even though we said that this is okay to do, מכל מקום נוהגים להחמיר לכתחילה, שכל חתיכה שיש לה בית קיבול, כגון דופן שלמה, מהבחין אותה שיזוב אדם. We are strict, we are machmir, that any piece of meat that is large, but not just large, it has a bet kibul, כגון דופן, it has a, how would you translate the bet kibul? It has a dofen. It is able to, it's not a round piece of meat. It is like a slab of meat. It's like it has a receptacle. Yeah. It is able to hold blood. It is able to gather. It has a bet kibul. What will be a better word for it in English? When something, let's say you cut this can of soda in half. The bottom half, even the top, is a bet kibul. You can still put water in it. It can hold it. It's called a container. A container, yeah. So if a piece of meat is large enough that it has either a dofen, which is like a dofen is like a wall, a side, a slab, flat, or a form of bet kibul, which is a shape. It's shaped in such a way that it can contain the blood. We always turn it over. That the dam should zav, it should not stay there. If the piece of meat does have a bet kibul, we turn it over after a while. That's the chumrah that the Ramah talks about. The question that you had about large pieces, it's not so much the large, it's the shape also that matters. Because then it's sitting there. It's not really flowing. But the Ramah says that's only lechatchila. Ava b'di'eved ein lochush. Don't be concerned because of the same halacha, that as long as everything is being salted, everything is coming out, everything has a place to go. Even though it's sitting there, eventually somehow it will be gone. It's not going to be a problem. It's when it does not have where to go that the pressure of it sitting in the keli without holes is a problem. It doesn't have where to go. But here it does have where to go, but it's just the cavities are being formed, pockets, or because it's so big, the blood is sitting there for a while. Lechatchila, turn it over. Lechatchila, don't let it stand there so long. But the di'evet ein lochush. You don't have to be concerned. All right, the next scenario that the Ramah brings down in this first seif is chaticho shemolach oiso beis pe'omim muteres. Let's say you took a piece of meat and you salted it twice. Now, why would somebody do that? In Samach Tes, we spoke about salting it a second time when you want to preserve it, which means that you already did hadacha, and now you're salting it again. That's very, very different, because once you've done the hadacha, you've gotten rid of the old salt that is bloodied, and you've sealed the pores, you're okay, you can go ahead, no problem, and salt it now, for preserving it. This is not the case of preserving it. Here we're talking about a second melicha for some reason without the last hadacha. Muteres. Chaticha shemolach oiso beis pe'omi muteres velocha. What should we be concerned about? The lochai shinan shemelech hasheni, that the second blood, the second salt, mavli hadam hanisha mimelicha rishona, it will reabsorb the blood that remained from the first melicha. You shouldn't do it. The Chochmah Sodom brings down, I saw, that you have to be careful not to do that. Why would somebody do that? I was thinking, well, maybe I guess he figures he wants to salt everything again together. He has more meat, he's just going to leave it there, he's going to throw salt all over it. This was done already, take it away. So this really is more of a, what happens if you did? Chochmah Sodom says you shouldn't do it. Why shouldn't you do it? Because there are opinions that hold that the melech can also reabsorb blood, just like it extracts blood. So it could be a problem. So the Ramah says, we're not concerned. So it is brought down, I think the B'Shoisa brings it down. Anyway, they bring down the Maharai. There's several explanations why we hold here that it's okay. The first svara is of the Rosh. The famous svara of the Rosh that we spoke about early on, that Melech only takes out it works one way, not the other way. There is such an opinion. Melech only draws out the blood and it is not mavliya the blood. Even though we don't really hold like that, we don't go by that, we are concerned that the Melech can reabsorb it. The main idea, which apparently the Taz and Shach hold here as well, is the second opinion, and that is, I did the Torid. The reason why this is allowed, at least b'di'evet, is because even though you're resalting it, and that there's always that problem of going back in, but it won't. Why? It's being Torid and poled. In other words, something is coming out. And if something is coming out, you don't have to be concerned. Don't do it, but if you did, just know that it's okay. Because whatever is coming out will prevent it from going in, or even if it's not preventing it, it will come out again anyway. As we said with the other reason, with the other explanation. Why did we aser? There's a whole question here that comes up in the Taz and the Shach. Why did we aser when there was no hadacha rishona, that the salt did absorb the blood inside? Why didn't we say there something is coming out? Because there was talking about dam be'ein. So that's important to remember. Dam be'ein is very different than the dam plita that's coming out from the meat. Dam be'ein would cause a problem if it were to be absorbed into the meat. That's what you have to make sure, that the meat is completely rinsed before you start the melicha.
What's coming out is dam hashna.
Right, dam plita, dam sheparash.
That would also be a problem. That's exactly the problem.
Yeah, but with dam be'ein, we don't say I did the torid. That's the thing.
Being more lenient.
We're
It's not that we wouldn't have a problem if it did go more lenient with respect to
with dam sheparash.
yeah,
exactly. But not with dam be'ein. We're not being lenient. Exactly. We're being.
This dam be'ein would be done that was the dam of the neck.
Yeah.
So
Dam atamsis, dam adevash. Yeah, the dam that came from the outside versus the dam that is internally still in the blood vessels of the meat. Yeah, which is interesting. There's apparently a difference between the two of them.
Because it was explained.
It's just a different kind of blood, perhaps, too.
But the blood that was inside,
Thicker, yeah.
once it came out, it's not called dam be'ein. If it
Right,
originated
it's not.
inside the meat.
It's not.
Even if it was
That's
came
correct.
out during reverse salting
Right.
or
That's correct. That's
so where did this blood that's on the outside?
from the shchita.
So that was at the time it was. So
Yeah.
That's dam.
Dam adefesh or dam atamsis. There's stages of the blood coming out, the initial blood that coming out, or
But it could be dam nefesh.
Oh, of
You
course,
don't know for sure
of
it's
course,
dam
yeah.
nefesh. And dam nefesh is the most.
It's the real
horrific,
thing.
no?
What?
Dam
Yes,
nefesh is the
that's
worst.
it's the worst. Exactly, as far as chorus is
So
concerned.
maybe that's why they're extra machmir with dam be'ein.
Well, you could
It's good on nefesh.
Yeah, it's the
When it
risa,
comes
you're
out
saying. It's
now,
the risa. Yeah, could be, yeah. But apparently, there are some who hold that there's actually a difference in the way the salt will work on this blood versus that blood too.
Maybe it's desirable to take into consideration because it's much more.
Yeah, that does come up. Remember, we did see that dam shenimlach is a derabanan. Dam that was salted, that we took out. That came out. We hold it's a derabanan. So it's definitely, that is a consideration at times.
Melicha.
Yeah.
We don't say that the original somehow creates a barrier. We don't even do that.
Yeah, that wasn't so much the issue. Yeah.
It's okay. So
Yeah. It's not so much because it's a barrier, but
What would be the barrier?
No, he was saying that if the salt is still there, first of all, it could be. First of all, it could be this. First of all, it could be that the first salt.
We didn't do hadacha. That's why if you did the hadacha, we would. To here, we and somehow with not even chemical or other barrier that's not.
Right. Because if you hold that the salt does have both peulos, it does both things, to take in and to take out, perhaps that which has come out, you're bringing in new salt, there's a possibility that it will bring it back in. There was that concern. Apparently we are lenient. Otherwise, the halacha would be different here. But the ikar here, the ikar idea here is to remember is that this is an important concept of Aidi de Toret Polat helps us very much. As long as the piece of meat is giving out some juice, it will not absorb. Well, that's very helpful to know. All right. So the second half of the sif reads as follows. So we said the Ramah says Lo chayshinu shemelech hasheni mavli adam anishar mimelicha rishona. So we're not concerned that the second salt will be mavli adam from the first melicha. Okay. What about, that was basar with basar, basar with off, and so forth. Avad basar and dogi, somehow somebody doesn't know what he's doing. It could be somebody, the goy just brought everything, dumped it all in one place. It's interesting, if you ever go to a kiddush, you'll notice sometimes people putting in the same plate chicken, cholent, and fish.
Chicken and roll.
Chicken and cholent is not a problem. Yeah. They don't know you're not supposed to. That's the whole idea of schnapps on Shabbos is or challah.
And they'll take schnapps along with it.
If they have good hashgachas, they put it in separate places, separate corners of the room. They still put it in the same plate. That's if they don't know. Yeah. So we'll learn a little bit about that, even though it's a separate siman really that deals with dvarim shasum shum sakana, things that should not be eaten. It's a sakana to eat them. We're going to touch on that a little bit here. So here, before telling us about the problems of sakana, we're concerned about some other problem. We're concerned about the blood. Sakana is a separate thing. So let's first talk about problems that can arise from blood going into the fish. That's the first problem that we need to be concerned with. If they're sitting on the same table being salted together, what now? But basar im dogim, afilu basar oifas im dogim, even chicken with fish, asur limloach. It's also to salt them together. We're not talking about sakana yet. Lefi shadagim poltim kol tziram, the fish will emit all their tzir kodem sheyiflot ha'ofes dama, before the chicken can give out all its blood. The fish is already done. So you might say, well, wait a minute, why not? What's wrong? There's tzir from dagim too. I'm salting them. There's all kinds of brine and juices and liquids coming out, and it won't let the blood go into the fish. Remember, we're concerned now about the blood. Yeah, but the fish are going to finish so quick, much quicker than the chicken. And by the time they're finished, the blood is going to come in and going to be absorbed into the fish. You're going to have bloody fish.
We were not worried about two pieces if they continue to...
Exactly. But with fish, for some reason, the guy is just salting everything together.
So even if it's coming out from the fish...
No, so he's telling us a metzias, a fact, that the fish are very quick. It doesn't say how long, but much quicker than the chicken. By the time the fish are finished, the chicken is still giving out blood. And if the fish are still there, they're going to absorb. They're no longer giving out anything. They're going to absorb the blood.
Hypothetically speaking, if it's blood, would it be okay? Like
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. The there's a primigodum on that. It says even if it was just a little bit, we don't rely on that. I remember seeing the primigodum on that. If there was a few minutes there together, it could be a problem. Okay, what happens if you did anyway? Im avar umalchan yachad, he went ahead and salted them anyway together. Haufot mutarin, the chicken are okay.
Sure, why not?
Aval adagim tzarich litomim kedei klipa. The Mechaber holds that from the fish you have to remove a klipa. That's good news. I don't have to. Not all the fish are ulcer.
Much more than a klipa?
It depends if it's tilapia or sea bass or salmon, right? Yeah. Otherwise, there's barely anything left. But we have some good news here. What happens if they still have their scales on? That makes a big difference. So far, all we know is that if you did it with him, you have to remove a klipa. Now, why klipa? Yeah. Why klipa? Because of what we've said all along. Melicha really is not, it's a problem, but it's not like bishul. Melicha works on a klipa. A klipa is still a klipa. And sometimes you need shishim keneged the klipa. I mean, remember we spoke about that. We don't underestimate. We don't just do away with the klipa. You would have to remove a slice that absorbed the blood. But if the scales were still on the fish when they were being all salted together, mutarim, the Mechaber says, you're lucky. You don't have to worry about it, even though it's true. You're not allowed to do it. Blood's coming out. But if they had the scales saved your day. What do the scales do? So before we see what the scales do, let's see what the Gemara says about this. What is the problem over here? Why can't we salt them together? So the Mechaber simply says because they finish quickly. Why do they finish quickly? I mean, what exactly happens that they finish quickly?
Probably the meat itself.
Yeah. So the Gemara says, the rofu karmayu v'kadmi ufalti. It's really two things. The fish, the meat, or the skin, is very, very soft. So it absorbs easily. And it gives off very quickly whatever juice it may have. and the chicken simply continue to give off for a while, and that will be absorbed into the fish. So what do we see so far? That in the fish you don't really have any more the svar of Aida the Torah the Polat, which really was helpful when you had meats being salted together. That svar cannot be applied by fish. So there's a question that the Rashba brings, that they bring down the Rashba over here. But wait a minute, don't remember the Rashba. Rashba says in the name of Rabbeinu Yoina that if you had blood absorbed into the chicken later on, after the fact, just go ahead and resalt it again. Salt will always take it out again. The reason that we don't hold like that always, that you can just get away with it like that. But there is that opinion. What will he say? According to that opinion that holds that you can resalt something, okay, so the fish absorbed some blood, go ahead and resalt them and take out the blood. So the Shach brings this down, that because, as you were saying, their flesh, their skin is so soft, the dam nisrach bahem yoter. The blood becomes much more attached into it, and it does not come out so easy.
Oh.
Interesting. Because it's a good question. Why don't you just put salt again and take it out? No. Because of the softness of the flesh, the skin, or whatever.
It re-entered.
Right, the blood that re-entered. And you would, for the same reason, you don't say dam mishrik shorik on the fish. There's a Rabbinical tam that holds the whole idea of the salt, of the blood not going in from the outside is because it's actually mishrik shorik. It actually falls off. It slides off. That's another opinion, which we didn't talk too much about this time, but it's there. It says that cannot apply. That does not apply to fish. That you say it just slides off the fish. No, I guess the softness of the flesh of the fish is such that it's going to actually absorb deeper, and you won't be able to draw it out with any salt.
It won't come out.
Yeah, but here,
When you fish, but leave that aside for the
yeah, right now, so as far as the mechama is concerned, it's only a klipa anyway. So you have a good question. I'm thinking about it now that you said that if you apply a lot of salt, how come it won't work in a klipa? According to what he it's not. We're saying that the blood is going in, and what the mechama is saying it's only asakadei klipa. Why won't it work? It could be that still, even in a klipa, it doesn't easily release itself.
Because
no,
this is between the blood and the meat.
Yeah.
And it's not an interaction with salt. So either the salt can accomplish what it accomplished without interference from the fish.
Yeah.
That's fine. But if the flesh, then the quantity of salt is like a difference.
I was thinking perhaps a little bit similar to that. Perhaps it works, salt taking out all that blood, which is interesting how it does it. It works on meat. It doesn't really work on fish that much.
Although we do say
that something is coming out. So
of the original.
Right, of the original. But it could be this is not its own blood.
Right.
So it gets somehow stuck. Yeah.
Because it could be different. And besides,
Yeah, it could be.
the blood that we more will probably even eat.
Yeah. Fish are very different than meat and chicken. It's a whole
The blood is also very
The blood is very different. Yeah. It's actually not also for you to drink it either.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have some supposed to.
Unless, you have to have the scales. Yeah.
Marasayin.
Marasayin. So anyway, we will see, Mitzvah Shem, after Pesach, what does the kaskasim actually do? There's different opinions. The Pashup shot is that the kaskasim act instead of the klipa. It's a shield. The yesh oisim kol adagim. The Ramah says some are aser, they aser the whole fish, not just the klipa. Im enon shishim neged, unless you have 60 keneged oifas. Why? Because of the famous Ramah's shita. The anu mesharim b'melicha b'shishim. We always by melicha go by 60. Unless you know for sure something is kochush 100%, we usually don't distinguish between kochush and shaman. So therefore we go always shishim. The ochino, that's the minhag. V'dafka delays to kaskasim, but this is only if there's no kaskasim, of course. The rafu karmayu paltu miyad, because of the reason we just said, their skin or their flesh is soft, they emit everything quickly. Avali isbu kaskasim. If it has scales, mutarim, the einan palti miyad. Oh, the Ramos says it's something else. If it has kaskasim, then it will not give off everything right away. Therefore, lo bolim min ha'oifus, they will also not absorb from the chicken. The idea that torid liflot lo bolim midid they have ashnei chatichos shenim lechoyachad. So apparently, the Ramah does give another explanation. That if there is scales, the scales will hold back the juice from coming out so quickly. You will still be able to apply the svar that we had before juice coming out, as long as something is coming out, it will not absorb. So there's different opinions as to what the scales accomplish, but apparently everybody's in agreement that if you have the scales, then you don't have to worry about it. So when the Ramah says it's aser unless you have shishim, it's only if there's no scales. Well, that's good to know. Just to finish off.
Scales not an issue by anyone.
Apparently not, yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, it was, yeah, not a klipa, not nothing, right. But as to what the scales accomplish, apparently there's at least two explanations to what they actually do.
And they're not mutually exclusive as well.
Yeah. Okay, so just real quickly, even though this is really brought down later in the Taz and Shach, I figured I'd just mention it now. This was a problem with the blood. Obviously, you don't want to salt fish, chicken, or meat because of the blood. But what about the problem of sakana? We know already by now, even though we're not learning the halachas of sakana, now we know that we don't eat the two, we don't cook the two. The real problem is actually cooking the two, or eating it at the same time. Eating one after another is not a problem. Somebody asks, I get from time to time this question, I just had meat. Can I have chicken now? I'm sorry, can I have fish now? Yeah. No, I just had meat. Can I have fish now? Well, what's the problem? It's not milk. Oh, I thought you can't have the two together. You're not having them together. You have one after another. Oh, but I thought only if I had the fish first. No. As long as you rinse your mouth, you eat a piece of, which means either eating a piece of bread or having some schnapps or something, then it's okay. Without regard to the order, you can have. Most of us, we don't have fish after we had meat. But if somebody decided they had, I didn't know they had chicken, they had salmon. I'd like to have some salmon too. Okay, I guess you could have it. It's not what happens in in the stomach. They're going to get mixed up anyway. It's more eating together that is apparently a problem, especially cooking them together. So therefore, we know that is no good, not healthy. And chamira sakanto misura, the rabbis tell us, something that is also because of sakana is stricter than an isur. By isur we have hilchas bittul. What if somebody told you that the chef by mistake put some rat poison in the soup? And you say, well, it's bottle b'shishim. Would you have that soup?
No, give it to the rat.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's what it is. We're more concerned about sakana. We're definitely more concerned about sakana. So, what about the issue of sakana over here? So the Taz points out over here that the issue of sakana doesn't really apply by melicha. Melicha of the two together does not bring about a concern of sakana. The Shach says pretty much the same thing.
Although Yore Deah.
Yeah. In other words, it does not affect the issue. In other words, it does not concern us because of sakana. Pischei Tshuva brings down that the Minchas Yaakov had a question if nichbeshu b'yachad, if they were actually pickled together. And he says it's a tzarech chiyun. That's not so simple. Pickled together, maybe there's sakana, they were actually together for a while. That's different. However, the Pri Megadim takes it one step further. The Pri Megadim says, okay, I understand that melicha is not strong enough to cause a problem of sakana over here. Melicha keretea, but it's only a klipa. In other words, that's not the issue here. However, after they've been salted, the Pri Megadim says, and you're going to take each one, you separated them, you're going to cook the fish. You're going to cook the chicken or the meat. Now it's going to be bishul. Now it's going to be bishul of the tam of the fish, the tam of the chicken. Isn't that going to be a problem? So he asked this question, but I saw that the Yad Yehuda brings down that we hold that there's no sakana in tzir and tam that comes out through melicha. Period. Where is the sakana? In the actual piece of fish, piece of meat together. When it comes to tzir and tam that came out, which comes out through melicha, for example, there's no concern. There's no sakana. So that's an answer to the Pri Megadim. In other words, yes, you're going to go cook now the fish. They were salted together. But what do we say? The melicha is not a big concern. Yeah, but I'm cooking it now, and there's going to be tam. Yeah, but tam and tzir that came out through melicha is also not going to be a problem for sakana. That's the way we hold it. Do you want to do it anyway? Well, just make sure you avoid salting it together. Yeah, obviously. Rinse it off very well, I would say. If there's no scales on it, I would be concerned, a little bit. But halacha l'maaseh, this would be a halacha. It wouldn't be it's optional, you want to take a chance. No, there's no such thing as taking a chance when something is a sakana. It's a halacha. We have halachas about this. So therefore, at least we know that if it's only a little bit of tam that came out through the process of melicha, That does not produce a sakana by itself. What could? I mean, obviously cooking the two together, eating the two together, and perhaps eating a good amount of it together. We don't know how much. That may be the issue. But otherwise, the melicha by itself does not produce a problem as far as the sakana is concerned. Okay, I guess we can stop over here. And continue with Hashem after Pesach.